Welcome to Right Mindset. Today, we are embarking on a profound journey into the architecture of your decision-making, exploring the masterpiece, Thinking Fast and Slow, by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman. We often navigate our days on autopilot, unaware of the hidden cognitive gears driving our choices, judgments, and occasional missteps. Kahneman unveils a fascinating dual system framework that governs how we perceive reality. At the core, he identifies two distinct modes of operation, System 1 and System 2. System 1 functions as your rapid-fire, intuitive, and emotional engine. It is the mental equivalent of breathing, operating automatically and effortlessly to interpret the world, like instantly recognizing an angry expression on a friend's face. Conversely, System 2 acts as your deliberate, analytical powerhouse. It demands focused cognitive energy and slow, conscious effort, the kind of deep engagement required to solve a complex math problem like 17 multiplied by 24. While System 1 provides essential efficiency for survival, it frequently anchors us in systematic errors. By mastering the distinction between these two systems, you gain the clarity needed to elevate the quality of your decisions in both your professional ventures and your personal life. Stay tuned as we break down these mechanisms, providing you with the tools to sharpen your mental acuity and approach your goals with newfound precision. System 1 is a master of shortcuts, known in psychology as heuristics. While these shortcuts are necessary to navigate a complex world, they are the root of many cognitive biases. For instance, the availability heuristic makes us overestimate the likelihood of events that are easy to recall, like a plane crash, simply because they are dramatic and frequently mentioned in the media. Another trap is the representativeness heuristic, where we judge a person or situation based on how well it fits our mental prototype, rather than actual statistical probability. Kahneman argues that we are often blind to our own blindness. We don't know what we don't know. In this section, we explore how these mental shortcuts trick us into believing lies about the world. By recognizing these patterns, we can learn to pause and engage System 2 to verify our initial intuitive judgments. How information is presented to us, or framed, can drastically alter our choices. If a medical procedure has a 90% survival rate, it sounds much safer than one with a 10% mortality rate, even though they are mathematically identical. This is a classic example of framing bias. Similarly, the anchoring effect occurs when we are influenced by an initial piece of information, even if it is irrelevant. In negotiations, the first number placed on the table acts as an anchor, pulling the final agreement toward it. We will analyze how marketing experts and salespeople use these psychological mechanisms to influence your wallet. Learning these techniques is your defensive armor against manipulation. When you realize that your preferences are being steered by the way questions are structured, you gain the power to reclaim your agency. Why are we so often sure of ourselves, even when we are wrong? Kahneman identifies the illusion of validity and the illusion of understanding as primary culprits. We tend to construct coherent narratives from limited data, giving us a false sense of certainty about the past and the future. This is particularly prevalent in the financial world, where experts often believe they can predict stock market movements based on historical patterns that are largely random. The book highlights that humans are prone to the planning fallacy, the tendency to underestimate the time and cost required to complete a project. We look at the best-case scenario and ignore the messy reality of execution. Here, we discuss strategies to temper this confidence, such as conducting a pre-mortem analysis to imagine how a project might fail before it even begins. One of the most groundbreaking parts of the book is prospect theory. It challenges the standard economic model that humans are rational beings who maximize utility. Instead, Kahneman reveals that our reactions to gains and losses are asymmetrical. We feel the pain of a loss about twice as intensely as we feel the pleasure of an equivalent gain. This is known as loss aversion. It explains why people hold on to losing investments for too long, hoping to break even rather than cutting their losses. It also explains why we are naturally risk-averse in situations where we have a lot to lose, even when the odds are in our favor. Understanding these dynamics is essential for mastering your finances, understanding human motivation, and making more balanced decisions in high-stakes environments. Kahneman introduces a fascinating distinction between the experiencing self and the remembering self. The experiencing self lives in the present, while the remembering self keeps the score and tells the story. Our decisions are dictated by the remembering self, which is biased toward the peak end rule. It remembers the most intense point of an experience and its end, ignoring the overall duration of the experience. This explains why we might choose a vacation that ends on a high note, even if the majority of the trip was stressful. This section explores the implications of this for our happiness and life satisfaction. Are we chasing experiences that feel good in the moment, or experiences that will provide a high-value memory later? This perspective helps us rethink how we design our lives. Building directly on how our minds perceive value, we encounter two of the most stubborn traps driven by System 1, the endowment effect and the sunk cost fallacy. Kahneman highlights that we naturally overvalue things simply because we own them. Once an object, a project, or even an idea becomes ours, its perceived worth skyrockets in our minds, making us highly resistant to giving it up. This emotional attachment feeds directly into the sunk cost fallacy, the destructive tendency to continue investing time, money, or energy into a failing venture simply because we have already invested so much. Whether it is staying in an unfulfilling career, holding on to a plummeting stock, or pushing forward with a broken business model, our rapid-fire brain hates to admit a loss. To counter this, we must consciously activate System 2, forcing ourselves to evaluate our current options based on future potential rather than past sacrifices. Another profound hurdle in developing a sharp mind is how we evaluate our past decisions. Humans have an intense desire for the world to make sense, which leads to hindsight bias, the illusion that we knew it all along after an event has already occurred. Once we know the outcome of a situation, our brain instantly rewrites our memory, making the result seem predictable and inevitable. This triggers outcome bias, where we judge the quality of a past decision purely by its final result, rather than the information available at the time. If a risky gamble pays off, we label it brilliant. If it fails, we look back and call it foolish. Overcoming this bias is essential for true personal growth. We must learn to judge our decisions by the depth of our logic and process at the moment the choice was made, rather than letting unpredictable outcomes dictate our self-worth. In our final section, we synthesize the lessons from thinking fast and slow. How do we apply this in the real world? It is impossible to eliminate all biases, as they are built into our evolutionary biology. However, we can create an architecture of choice. By setting up choice environments that encourage System 2 thinking, we can mitigate errors. This includes building checklists, consulting diverse perspectives, and acknowledging our own cognitive fallibility. As we wrap up this journey through the human mind, remember that the goal is not to be perfectly rational, a goal that is impossible, but to be more aware of when we are most vulnerable to error. Start small, challenge your assumptions, and stay curious. If you found this breakdown of thinking fast and slow insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into behavioral science. Click the notification bell to never miss a new video.